Yeah, so welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is our third webinar in San Jose's Home Electrification Webinar Series in partnership with Redwood Energy. So yeah, again, thanks for joining us tonight on this fine Tuesday. My name is Hannah and I am on the Climate Smart team at the City of San Jose. And for those of you where this is the first webinar that you've maybe attended or who aren't familiar with the Climate Smart team or with Climate Smart, it's the City of San Jose's Climate Action Framework. Climate Smart San Jose is the official name. And it was passed back in 2018. So this framework outlines the strategies for the City of San Jose to address climate change and to create a healthier, more sustainable living environment. Accelerating these goals that are outlined in the Climate Smart Framework, we passed or set ambitious targets for achieving net zero emissions by creating the pathway to carbon neutrality by 2030. And so this new initiative means that by 2030, the city is hoping to have sequestered or removed as many emissions as it produces on an ongoing basis. So one of the key strategies that'll help us achieve these goals is to switch from gas to electric in our homes. And so to educate residents and folks on electrification, we've partnered with expert Sean Armstrong of Redwood Energy to put on this series of webinars. And Sean will go off and talk a little bit more about himself and his background in a moment. I'll just start with some housekeeping rules first. So a reminder that this webinar is being recorded. You should have received a disclaimer when you joined, but I wanted to just set that reminder. And so this is also a little different than a Zoom meeting. It's a Zoom webinar. So what that means is that there isn't the normal chat function. However, we encourage you to ask questions and to be engaged throughout the webinar. So what you can do is access the Q&A function. If you see it on the bottom, there's a little chat bubble with the question mark that says Q&A. If you click on that, you can enter questions. Again, enter questions, write questions whenever you'd like. We also encourage folks to ask questions out loud instead of just using the Q&A. So if you want to ask a question, just raise your hand. There's again, near the Q&A function, there's a raise hand function. It looks like a little hand. If you do that, we'll see that and we'll allow you to ask the question. We can unmute you. And yeah, just one more time, questions will be taken throughout the webinar. Ask away, ask whenever you'd like. You don't have to wait until the end. There's no Q&A portion specifically. So for those that just joined and missed the beginning, we are offering simultaneous interpretation services. So if you want to access this webinar in Spanish or Vietnamese, there is a little globe that says interpretation down on the bottom. You can click that and select the audio channel of your choosing. Okay, I think that's all I have to say. So Sean, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you so much, Hannah, and thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. So I'm going to talk about the money that is available to electrify your house or your apartment, and I'm going to go through a few examples of it. First, I'm going to introduce myself, though. Hello. My professional background is that in 2005, I started working with a professional construction and development company that specialized in apartments for low-income households. And so I started that in 2005. In 2011, I worked for the city of Arcata, like Hannah. And now, from 2011 till today, I've been working as a consultant, helping other developers design all-electric, 100% solar-powered housing. And these are example projects here. I've worked on about 400 or 450 apartment complexes now, just a whole lot. I can't keep track so much these days. So I'm going to bring that experience to the table here. That's the goal. So I'm also trying to shrink the screen so I can see things. Pardon me. There we go. Now I can see everything. So there are state incentives and federal incentives that we're going to go through. And see, we're also going to go through local and regional incentives. So there's a whole bunch. You see all these different logos, and I'm going to explain each one of them as we encounter them. So we're going to go through 3 example homes. One is an older house that needs some repair to the envelope, to the outside of the building, the windows, the walls. And then we have a manufactured house. Also, sometimes people call them mobile homes, but mobile homes are actually pulled behind a truck or are a truck. And a manufactured house is what you find generally in manufactured home parks. It's a different kind of building. And it's a true house as opposed to a vehicle. So a manufactured house, or this also applies to accessory dwelling units, like a small, tiny house in your backyard for a renter or something. And we're going to study this specifically in what's called a disadvantaged community, a community in which people are, there's been a long-term effort by previous governments and banks to not provide advantages, not provide loans, not provide services. So this is well understood as a matter of history, and there's mapped areas of our communities that are identified as, oh, these are the places that didn't get the services, and now we're trying to help them out more. So, and then we're also going to look at an apartment complex. So, my specialty is apartments. First, let's talk about this house. Just an example house in San Jose, built in 1969, has 4 bedrooms. There's 5 people that live there. It's about 2,000 square feet, and it has gas for everything, for the water heater, also called a boiler, for the furnace, for central ducted space heating, a gas stove, a gas dryer. This is common in California and uncommon in the rest of the country. In the rest of the country, it's common to have all electric homes, or at least to have like 88% of houses in the United States have an electric dryer, and about 60% of houses in the United States have an electric stove. But in California, about 90% of people have gas for almost everything or everything. So this house doesn't have a solar array. It doesn't have EV charging, electric vehicle charging. And it's, not a very good exterior envelope to the building. Not very well insulated, has not such great windows. It's an older house. It has not been upgraded much since it was built. So these are some things that we might do to this house. From left to right, you would say, this is a reversible air conditioner. An air conditioner is also called a heat pump. These are the same thing. A heat pump is an air conditioner is a heat pump. But heat pumps also produce heat, whereas air conditioners only work in one direction. And if it goes in the other direction, it can also heat your house. So that's why this looks like an air conditioner. It's because it is. It goes in both directions. So that is a heat pump. We're going to call it that. Or a reversible air conditioner. That's another perfectly good name. Then we have a water heater. This has got a small air conditioner on top, also called a heat pump. These are heat pump water heaters. So when you stand in front of this fan, it blows kind of cool air at you. And it operates running that fan 1 to 4 hours a day. So this fan is blowing air over little refrigerant coils. And those are cold coils that absorb heat. So it chills the air as the air is pulled through it. And that, as it chills the air, that means it's heating up the refrigerant, and that is wrapped around the tank, and that heats the tank up. So it's a heat pump water heater. Here we have an LG stove. I think this is induction. Up here, this is a dryer, a heat pump dryer though. So it uses 1/3 as much electricity as an old-fashioned electric resistance dryer. Electric resistance is like what you see inside of a toaster or inside of an electric oven when you open the door and you can see it's red hot. That's the old-fashioned electric resistance dryers. And heat pumps use 1/3 as much electricity. So here would be an EV charger. This is the kind that would be a fast charger for your car. I use a slow charger and it's just fine. Solar panels and insulation. So these are the things that you might want to do on a house like this. I'm going to focus on a house because I imagine many of you have a house. About 60% of Americans live in houses, and about 5 to 10% live in manufactured houses, trailer homes, some people call them. And then about 30% of America lives in an apartment. So chances are you live in a house. If you live in a house, there are federal tax credits that are to encourage you to retrofit. You can get a retrofit tax credit, which means when you're paying taxes, you can ask your accountant to use the 25C tax credit, and if you are replacing electrical stuff in your house, then you can get $600 off your taxes. If you are putting in a heat pump space heater or heat pump water heater, either of those, the space heating or the water heating, this is the water heater, this is the space heating heat pumps. So it's $2,000 per year. And then for the weatherization, which is insulation, and also this is weatherization where you put caulk and tape and such around doors and windows so they don't leak as much. They'll pay for that. So insulation and air sealing, $1,200. A new door, $250. New windows, $600. And no more than $1,200 per year. But you can get that $1,200 year after year if you're just going to do, like many people do, a little bit of work each year over time. So I'm not thinking that all of you have a whole bunch of money in your pocket. Maybe some of you have less, and you're just going to do it incrementally year over year, which is how most people do it, myself included. And a home energy audit, they encourage you to have some money to be able to pay for someone coming over and giving you advice. Okay, so that was 25C tax credits. Everyone has access to this tax credit for retrofitting their house. This is 25D. These are tax credits for solar panels, ground source heat pumps, and batteries. So these ones are 30% of the solar panel cost, 30% of a solar water heater cost, 30% of a ground source heat pump, 30% of batteries. It's 30% for all those things. It's a tax credit. Now, these $8,000, $1,600, these incentives are going to come through the state and are probably just available to homes that are disadvantaged that I mentioned. It's not clear because there's a fair amount of money, but so far they're just allocating it for low income households. So this money is real, and some of you on this call, it might be relevant to you, but if you're a higher income household, this is probably not important to you. But they have $8,000 off for energy efficiency with heat pumps and $1,600 off for weatherization. You can see how more money is going towards households that have less money to help make sure that they can also electrify. So $4,000 off the electric panel. You saw here this tax credit back here was $600 per year for that tax credit. This tax credit, this rebate, is $4,000. However, this money is capped because rebates are cash, and the federal government has only allocated so much money for these rebates, whereas the tax credits are good for the next 10 years, and they're not capped. So even though there might be less money available, you think, for moderate income households, in fact, it's essentially an unlimited amount of money available to people who pay taxes, and a fairly limited amount of money available to low-income households who pay less taxes. Okay, so $2,500 off electric wiring. Here they're going to provide $840 off the stove, $840 off the heat pump clothes dryer, $750 off of the heat pump water heaters, $8,000 off the heat pump space heating system. So it's a bunch of money, but I'll say it again, these rebates are likely not going to be what you see, except if you are in a significantly low-income household. And then the money is supposed to go first to direct installation. Direct installation means there's a nonprofit that's responsible for taking the money from the state and directly installing themselves in your house heat pump water heaters and heat pump space heating systems and such. And that's what's done to help lower income households that don't have cash themselves to buy the system. So they need a direct installation from using state monies. So here are state incentives for EV chargers. So note that 37% of the funds have been reserved or issued to disadvantaged and low-income communities. But that means the other 2/3 is available to higher income communities. And since roughly 40% of people are low income, you can see that getting 37% is just the bare minimum that's reserved. So $4,500 per level 2 charger, additional $500 for disadvantaged community house, additional $1,000 for multifamily. And you have to verify that you really have a site and you got to live in Santa Clara County. And these funds, there's not much available in them right now, but it's likely that they'll get renewed. So just pay attention to that. Now, if you're in San Jose, and I imagine most of you are, here there are extra incentives. So heat pump space heating, HVAC stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So heating and air conditioning and ventilation is fans. So $3,000 for the base incentive. And you have $4,500 though if you are in an equity community, or also called a disadvantaged community. Not quite the same definition, but for the sake of conversation. So you can see $1,000 or $2,000 for water heaters, $500 to $1,000 for the stove in electric resistance or induction. Induction is much faster and safer than electric resistance, but it's also more than twice as expensive. So I see electric resistance with glass tops, so they're safer. I see those in apartments, and I see induction stoves generally in houses with people with more money because they cost more. Okay, so then heat pump dryers and electric resistance dryers, either one of them, just as long as it uses electricity, $500 to $1,000. And then there's extra measures like LED lighting, home batteries, electric vehicle chargers, weatherizing your home, which I mentioned is insulation and air sealing with the caulk and tape. So $500 per thing that you do per measure. And extra things, smart thermostats, getting rid of nasty materials that are dangerous and hazardous, putting in building controls. Sometimes people with large houses have a whole house control system. It's worth noting they often waste a lot of energy because they're a big computer and they run all the time. So they may or may not save energy. And you can see they're not strongly incentivized. The big money is for electrifying, smaller amounts of money for various efficiency measures. BayREN is a whole bunch of governments in the Bay Area who together get to manage a lot of the state's funds. So they have a special organization that takes the utility money that's given to the state. It comes back and BayREN gets to manage it. They usually have electrification monies, but they've canceled them all right now because they're trying to rework their money to go just to low-income households. BayREN has historically been a little embarrassed to admit that the money that they gave went to very rich people. And so they're trying to stop that and make sure that the money that they give is more helpful and changes people's behavior. One could say sometimes these incentives don't make a difference in how someone chooses to do anything. It just pays them a little bit of money. And that's not why government money is handed out. It's supposed to do good as opposed to not doing much. So anyway, BayREN only has incentives right now for small measures as they figure out what to do about giving money to lower income households in the Bay Area. So they have duct replacement and sealing. Ductwork, this is ductwork here on the right. This is what's up in your attic or underneath your house, or it might be in a sort of fake part of your ceiling called a drop ceiling. So they help you tighten, get rid of the leaks. There's money here for insulating the house. It's often possible to insulate up in the attic if that's available. Not so easy on the walls, but if the walls are available. And then here's air sealing. I've talked about that with tapes and caulk. Bayren is also giving out money for 2 different electric appliances, $250 if it's an induction range, not electric resistance, just induction. And you have to prove that you're getting rid of that gas stove. And then a heat pump dryer, not electric resistance. So they're only incentivizing the more efficient versions of these 2 appliances. And it has to be Energy Star certified, but another $250. So you can see, if I was to go backwards for just a moment, that there is money in various pots to electrify and help, like with all sorts of different things that we listed here in the beginning. There's money for space heating and water heating and stoves and dryers and solar panels, and it's there is a significant amount of government money, never more so than this very moment. This is the best moment in your whole life so far for electrifying your house. Because the federal money that came through is significant too. Those tax credits I showed you. So here's a manufactured house. And this was built in 1991. It's got 2 bedrooms, 3 people live in it. It's 1,000 square feet, smaller house. Everything uses gas. It's within a disadvantaged community. Okay, so there's some extra monies available to them. The person who owns this house makes less than 80% of the median. Median is in the middle. So half of the incomes are above a median and half of the incomes are below a median. It's not quite the same thing as an average, but it's close to what an average is. So less than 80% of the median incomes, and it has 240 volt, 120 volt. Okay, great. Very similar set of recommendations. The water heater, the space heating system, stove, the heat pump dryer. Now, Energy Smart homes, these incentives are available for retrofits in single-family homes. And you can see here they've got money for the space heating system, water heating system, induction stove. Their heat pump dryer is a bonus, but they'll incentivize electric resistance also. And there's bonus incentives if you have to do electrical infrastructure upgrades. Now you got to convert all the gas appliances and equipment to advanced electric systems. Note that means that you have to completely electrify. They want it all. And what they'll offer you then for doing this is $4,250 this year and less money, $500 less the following year. You can see that the heat pump dryer bonus is there, $250. There's your electric infrastructure upgrade bonus. Now, all of these are available for single-family homes. This is one kind of single-family home. It's just a smaller one, but these incentives I'm showing you are also available to the other single-family home I showed you. They are available to single-family homes. Single-family means that it's either one house or at most 2 houses attached to each other as a duplex, just so you know. That's a single-family house. So then there's also monies that are available for apartments, which is called multifamily, and low-rise and accessory dwelling units. There, that's what we are making right now, is this ADU. So they're saying, because this is a small house, it's kind of like an apartment. You don't own the land, you just own this little building. So they're lumping this money available to the ADU, which means accessory dwelling unit, means extra house. So the extra house, such as that manufactured house, it gets less money, $2,200, and then goes down by $200, which is unfortunate because it's not actually like it costs that much less money. This is an example of where people with more money get more money. And this is a tension. This is why I mentioned Bayren is canceled. I would have many more things to show here, and I will next fall. But Bayren has just acknowledged that programs that are set up like this, they functionally give less money to money who have less for no particularly good reason. So there's the heat pump bonus, and there's your electrical infrastructure upgrade. Instead of it being $1,000, it's $600. Here's another regional incentive. This one is with San Jose. So San Jose, they have a home appliance savings program. Got to be Energy Star. Energy Star means it's a longer warranty and it's in the top 25% of efficiency. So it's a good product. So the eligibility, you have to be a San Jose Clean Energy customer. You have to live in a single family house. So that can be an accessory dwelling unit. It can be a manufactured home. It can be a larger house. And you live in this qualifying area or meet income guidelines. So note here that this is more set aside for disadvantaged communities or equity communities, these monies here. So in a qualifying area or qualifying incomes. Here we have just a standard electric resistance dryer. You know, they'll get it to you for $350 instead of its $900 price. But here we have the heat pump one, which is $1,300, and they'll sell it to you for $650. So in both cases, basically you have, well, this is, what's that, $550 essentially is the difference, and I think this is $600. So they paid a little bit more money for that rebate. So it's like a $600 rebate, and this is a $500 rebate. I'm doing my mental math correctly. For disadvantaged folks within San Jose. These are the areas that you would live in to qualify for this. So you can either live in that area or you can income qualify, right? Well, actually, does anyone know in here, is it either or is it both? I didn't see that. Because in this, it says or, right? Or meet income qualifications. But I think what it means is that if you live in these red areas, you automatically qualify, even if you make more money. I think that's how that works. So that's my best understanding. You live in these red areas, then you can get some of these appliance incentives. Lucky you. And here are some of the, if you, I think you could live outside of these red areas, but if you made these incomes with this household size, then you would also qualify for these subsidies for these appliances from San Jose Clean Energy. And these are examples of disadvantaged community maps, communities that were redlined so that they couldn't get loans from banks that were standardized loans. For instance, is a classic disadvantaged community mapping tool, because the banks all published official maps of places they would not give loans to because of the color of the skin of the people who live there. So here, San Jose, once again, your friendly local city, they're offering these incentives, which I showed you before, and I'm just showing you again because the same incentives would qualify for a manufactured house as they would for a single family home. So I won't go over them again, but just noting here, different house, same incentives. But now we're in an apartment complex in San. Yes.
Can Sarah just say a couple of words about the San Jose incentive program?
I would love that. Yeah, I'll take a drink of water. Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, go for it, Sean. So yes, hello everybody. Sean did a great job overviewing this. I just want to note, our first round of funding for this program did just get all reserved. However, we are expecting additional funding this summer. So we still encourage folks to apply to join the wait list. You have to submit 2 separate applications to join the wait list. The first is a short little Microsoft form that's really quick, but then the other one is a much more extensive PDF where you have to like give us the details of your equipment requested, the contractor you're working with, or if you're planning to self-install equipment, and you have to submit both. And then once both are submitted, our team reviews it and we'll get back to you if you're approved, and you're approved, you'll be on the wait list. So for the applications, you can go to that link, the bit.ly/electric home San Jose. And also just if you go to the city website, if you look up Electric Home San Jose, you should be able to find it. But I'll be on the webinar for a little bit more time if anybody has any other questions. Okay, thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. I also got a little cracker and cheese. Okay. Now we'll talk about apartments. So this apartment complex built about 20 years ago. It's big, 543 apartments. It's a mixture of different types of housing. And it has a gas boiler, which means like a big water heater that you have water, leaves that big water heater and goes to many different apartments. It is in a low-income community, so just bring that back up. These recommendations are not different. They shouldn't surprise you. Basic idea, put in a, and there's different kinds of heat pumps, by the way. This is one of the most common types, where it looks like an air conditioner that sits outside. And then this box is where there's this heat exchanger here, and it either blows cold air or hot air. But there's other types. You've seen ones, for example, that are in hotels, and you walk into a hotel room and you look down and there's like a long box on the wall. Those are noisy usually, not very high quality, but they are an example of a heating and cooling heat pump like this, which is quieter and nicer and more expensive. Okay, there's your water heater. There's your induction stove or your resistant stove with glass, your heat pump dryer, your EV charger, and your solar panels. Now, these are projects that have professionals involved with them that know how to sell tax credits. So these tax credits might be more interesting to people who could accumulate them and sell $300,000 of tax credits to someone who wants to buy them, like Coca-Cola or Bank of America. That's how tax credits are bought and sold in apartment complexes, is in big bundles to big customers. So this is very practical, if you are in apartment complexes, to look at these tax credits. But I showed them to you before, so you just kind of remember. Same idea with the solar tax credits, very popular in apartments. Now it's interesting that the solar panel incentives, says 30%, but in affordable housing, in subsidized, regulated, standard affordable housing, which is what we work in, there are also incentives that most people don't see, which is 40% and 50% and up to 70% if the solar panels are manufactured in the United States in a town that used to be a coal mining town. And that is because the Inflation Reduction Act, the Biden's sort of big energy policy that got passed, that provides incentives to try to help out communities that have been shut down when their coal mine got shut down. So there are solar manufacturers now that are locating in these little towns in Kentucky, in Indiana, all over the place where coal had been mined, or oil, like in Indiana. And then now that's where solar panels and batteries are being manufactured. And it's neat. So if you're doing affordable housing particularly, you can get really significant tax credits for giving solar to the tenants and getting the solar panels from the United States, from a former coal town. And that structure also applies to solar water heaters, ground source heat pumps, and batteries. But to be honest, you mostly just see it in solar panels, but somewhat in batteries also, where they're building batteries in former coal towns. So in an apartment complex, particularly if it was in a disadvantaged community, there's a program called the Solar on Multifamily Affordable Housing, SOMA. And SOMA is just for affordable housing and apartments that are in disadvantaged communities, even if they're not regulated affordable housing. But essentially, it's a free solar array for the tenants. And it's a nearly free solar array for the community building, which the developer owner pays for those utility bills. But basically, it's a free solar array for the entire development, and that is funded for another 7 or 8 years. into the 2030s. So very successful program. It's getting solar on low-income apartment complexes all over. And there, oh, Sarah Emerson, you're typing an answer to the anonymous attendee's question. I do appreciate that. I'm not as familiar with your program. Oh, and yeah, Geet is asking a similar question there. Very good.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Really? Sorry, really
So,
quick.
go ahead.
Sarah, do you mind saying the answer out loud just in case anyone else has the question and for the interpreters?
Oh, okay, sure. So I can read the question. Question 1. If one's pre-installation application is approved, if still not submitted post-installation application, do we still get rebate or still considered waitlist? So if you got an email from electrichomes@sanjoseca.gov and it said you are approved and it says your incentive will be reserved for 180 days, your date of expiration for the incentive is XYZ, it's probably sometime in either late October or early November, given when we got most of the applications. But if you have a specific date already for your incentive where it says it will expire, then your incentive was reserved. You are part of that first round of funding and you're not on the wait list, even if you didn't submit your post-installation application yet. You have to submit that post-installation application before that date of when your incentive expires. So hopefully that makes sense. And then Q2, should installation date be after pre-installation application approval? So this program, the Electric Home San Jose, it applies for equipment that was installed after April 22nd, 2024. So any equipment that was installed after April 22nd, 2024, you can apply for. So let's say you installed your heat pump water heater on April 23rd, and then you got your pre-installation application approved on April 26th. That would be okay. If you already installed everything after April 22nd, but you didn't submit the application yet because the program hadn't launched. So there's a kind of a small window you have to have installed after April 22nd, but it doesn't necessarily have to be installed before or after you get your pre-installation application approved. How about on April 22nd itself? Yes, we are including on April 22nd. Sorry, I should have said on or after.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. I'm glad that people are getting their questions answered. That's what we're here for. So that was SOMA, basically a free solar array on low-income apartment complexes in apartment complexes in disadvantaged communities. So Energy Smart Homes, that's the PG&E program that I'd shown you before. And there's funding specifically for apartments. This is the $2,200. I mentioned before how that's less money by half than is offered to single-family homes. And here, there's also a central heat pump water heater. So gas boilers are, they're a big central tank that's burning gas to make water hot. Well, there's a very similar equivalent technology, a heat pump boiler, or it's also called a central heat pump water heater. Same thing. So $5,000 per project. And I would note that that is the cost of one water heater, $5,000. So if over here, you can get $2,200 for a water heater, here, a total of $5,000 for no matter how big the apartment complex is for the central water heater. It doesn't really balance against each other, but that's how it is. Here you have San Jose. Just got the explanation, so I won't do it again, but just pointing out, it's a good chunk of money. Now, there's some other things. They're not necessarily your house, But I just want you to know that there are federal tax credits for new and used EVs, electric vehicles. So new cars up to $7,500, although it is income limited. So you can see 300 grand if you're filing jointly, 225 for heads of households. So if you're fairly wealthy, you don't qualify for $7,500. Used cars, $25,000 or less, and that'd be most cars that are a few years old, you know, up to 30, well, not Teslas necessarily, some of the smaller cars, a Chevy Bolt, a Volkswagen e-Golf, things like that. So up to 30% of the sales price, but only 4 grand is the maximum. And you can see the incomes are lower when you're buying a used car. Now, the Bay Area Air Quality Management District has a Clean Cars for All. And this has eligibility, income eligibility. So people who are making less than 300% of the federal poverty level. So that might be in the range of like 75 grand. These folks, they have access to $7,000, even up to $12,000 for either an electric car or a hydrogen fuel cell, but just a straight up electric car, 12 grand incentive, which can be lumped together with this $4,000 here for a total of $16,000. And you might be able to find a car that's $16,000. Certainly one that you can drive around town and commute in. Maybe not like a long distance drive to Los Angeles unless you want to charge a lot along the way. But just note here, so Bay Area Air Quality Management District has great incentives for reducing air pollution from vehicles. And they're trying to say like the higher award amounts are reserved for people in disadvantaged communities in the census tract. So if you just live there, you don't have to necessarily income qualify, but living there can help. So PG&E, they have an induction cooktop loaner program. And this is neat because you can try it out and see if you like cooking on induction. You'll find that one of these can boil water about twice as fast as your gas stove can, which is nice. And it also has very fine temperature controls. So you can set it to every 5 degrees or every 10 degrees, and you can get exactly the temperature that you want. That's nice when you're cooking some of the things like gravy and puddings and caramel chocolates, all sorts of things that, sorry, those things don't sound like they taste very good together, but all those things are done at a lower temperature. And it's nice to be able to set an induction stove to just the right temperature. So they mail it to you. That's nice. They give you instructions. They help you figure out if your pan of your other pots and pans work with induction, but they even send you an induction ready pan and for you to try out. PG&E also has, if you're doing construction or if you are, well, let's just go through this. The generator and battery rebate program. So they'll give you $300 rebate if you just buy a battery, like one of these, $200 more if you're a low-income customer. And I want to point out that it only applies to people who live in Tier 2 and Tier 3 fire threat. And that's this area. See here? The high-risk areas, high-risk fire areas and then near high risk. So the blue dots are all places that are much more likely to catch on fire. San Jose, not so much. So you have to be sort of living way out here on the outskirts. But that's what these incentives are for generators and batteries for people who might have their power shut off because of fire threats. And PG&E has incentives for $4,000 for pre-owned EVs, used EVs. That's neat. So it's another chunk of money. Bay Area Air Quality Management District, PG&E, federal incentives. You can layer these up and get almost a free car if it's a used car and you're income eligible.
Hey, Sean, do you mind if I just
Yeah.
interrupt real quickly? Do you mind going back to the PG&E induction cooktop loaner slide? Yeah. So San Jose, for those that don't know, actually has their own induction cooktop loaner program. the details are pretty similar to PG&E's, except for we don't ship our cooktops. You can come loan a cooktop or rent a cooktop out for up to 2 weeks and pick it up at San Jose City Hall on floor 10. That's where our office is. But it also includes a cooktop, induction ready pan. You can choose between a pot and a pan, a magnet to test out your own cookware. There are some resources. We include consumer reports with links to or information on like recommended or highly rated induction technology. And this summer, those that check out a cooktop, I mean, for a limited time only, we're going to include a bottle of hot sauce a la San Jose Clean Energy. They created their own or made their own hot sauce. And so it's a fun little giveaway that we're going to include in our kits. So I can include a link to the program in the follow-up email, but I just wanted to mention that in addition to the PG&E loaner program, there is a San Jose local one if you live in San Jose.
Bravo, good job. I'm glad you have it, that's what I'm trying to say. So
thank you.
I showed you these Golden State rebates. We're working on apartment complexes here. So just noting, but there's the ones that are available here, smart thermostats and water heaters. These two things. And it looks like they're offering like essentially a lower cost water heater and a lower cost thermostat through their program. So you can save money, save $500, save $700, save $900. These for different sizes. It depends upon if you're replacing an electric water heater with a heat pump electric water heater. That's less money than if you're replacing a gas water heater. This is interesting because Golden State rebates are essentially PG&E's program where they're trying to get people to switch over to the electric side of PG&E. Around 2017, they realized that they couldn't get to their climate change goals by burning gas. And in 2018 and 2019, when the fires started burning, like, Paradise burned in 2018, and there's so many fires that were in 2017, and they went bankrupt in 2019. Essentially, part of the deal for getting out of bankruptcy was to be supportive of climate change initiatives. You can understand, since the fires that they had helped start with sparking equipment that hadn't been maintained, that was in the context of a dry landscape that was very hot because of climate change. So it's been nice to see PG&E for a whole variety of reasons just coming to the conclusion that they were going to lean in hard, including spending shareholder money, not necessarily like the program money that the CPUC allowed, but actually their profits to invest in electrification. That's happening. Okay, so I showed you the map though of the high fire risk areas. Here is for a very larger region, just if you want to see. I don't know if any of you live in these places, but they get access to less expensive batteries and less expensive generators. Oh, and this is kind of fun. The city of San Jose, if you want to learn more about all these different items individually, they have a great website, Climate Smart Challenge, Climate Smart challenge.org. And it's kind of like a game, but lots of extra information. I went over things kind of quickly. So if you want to learn more about these products, you're welcome to go there. On our website, redwoodenergy.net, there's a research tab. And we publish books on how to electrify. They're free. And this is my favorite one for people with houses, the Pocket Guide to All Electric Retrofits of Single Family Homes. And we tried hard to make it very lots of pictures and easy to read text. So that is the presentation. If you have any more interest, there's resources here. SanJoseCleanEnergy.org, electric homes, Climate Smart San Jose.org, switcheson.org. My friend Panama runs that. And these are excellent resources for your curiosity. And we're still here for any questions that you might have.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a question. I can read it. So anonymous attendee Silicon Valley Clean Energy has $2,000 rebate for heat pump water heaters, but San Jose residents are not eligible for it. Can we do something about it, as San Jose rebates are only $1,000? We can't, it's not, we could always try to maybe like adjust and change the rebate amounts, but they're just completely different programs. They have different funding. Sarah will also, she's going to type an answer, but
Oh, I was just going to say, Hannah, our equity community incentives for heat pump water heaters are also 2,000. But the base incentive is 1,000. So that's the one all residents are eligible for. But equity communities are eligible for up to 2,000.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I'm not as familiar with Silicon Valley Clean Energy's program, so I don't know, like, as you could see, San Jose's program has incentives for a lot of different technologies. I'm not sure how it compares to Silicon Valley Clean Energy's program. Just the distribution of funds might be different because of that. That's just a guess. It's not necessarily true, but
There's another question here from someone's iPhone. This question is, I live in a condo in San Jose. And a condo is a type of apartment. I mean, in the sense that I should say it's multifamily. And multifamily, whether you own it or whether you rent it, it's multifamily. So the incentives that I showed that are for multifamily are the ones that you'd be able to use. And now you are trying to replace, do you own this heat pump water heater and heat pump space heating system? That'd be a question to have for you. Because if it's the developer that owns those systems, the owner, like the homeowners association, and then you have to go through the homeowners association. If you personally own these things in the condo, we're going to assume that for a moment. You got your own gas water heater, your own gas space heating system. Then you would have access to the tax credits that I showed, the 25C tax credits. So up to 30% of the cost of replacing these two systems, and $2,000 per year for a qualified system. So maybe this year that you want to replace your water heater, and you should get that replaced in the range of like $4,500 or so, maybe $5,500. So 30% of, let's call it 6,000 for easy numbers. That's approximately 30% of 6,000. So maybe you do this year and you get the $2,000 in a tax credit for replacing your water heater. And then the next year, you go after your space heating system. And now your space heating system is probably going to be more like $15,000. Maybe 25. I don't know how big your condo is. And if you get more bids, you get better prices. So I've seen people have very high prices, but basically it should be in the range of $15,000 to $20,000, and try to get it closer to 15. And in that case, you'd only get $2,000, but that's not 30%. $5,000 is 30%. Now, what I'm not clear on, you have to ask an accountant, because it says up to 30%. So let's say it's $15,000. 30% is $5,000, or about that. And I think that you can do $2,000 per year tax credit so that you get all $5,000, but you can only take it $2,000 per year. So it'd be 2.5 years essentially before you got all $5,000 back from your tax credits. That's my understanding of what that language means. But I'm not a CPA, but that's my understanding. So that'd be one of the things. It says go after the tax credits. Those are available to everybody, no matter who you are or where you live. Same with the solar tax credits, but you're asking about the water heaters. And you are in a multifamily building here. So this Energy Smart Homes incentive here, each participating building must install a heat pump space heating system, heat pump water heating system, induction cooking, and an electric dryer, right? Assuming that those are gas. Properties with existing electric cooking qualify without upgrading to induction cooking. So you got to get rid of your gas loads, and then here's another $2,200. So you had a tax credit of $2,000 you could take per year, and then there's this incentive, all in total $2,200 for your multifamily condo. And you'd still also have access to these incentives in San Jose for $3,000. If you're not an equity community, most likely because you have a condo, but assuming so I'm going to assume that you have access to the same incentive everyone else has. And you just had that explanation from Sarah about the nature of the funding and what's going on with it. But you would be eligible for those when it gets refunded. $3,000 for the HVAC as a rebate, and $1,000 for the water heater, $500 and $500. So that's $5,000, assuming you had all 4 gas loads. And you asked about the water heating and space heating system, and that totals $4,000. So I think that we've identified $2,000 in tax credits and $6,000 in rebates that you'd be eligible for space heating and water heating. That's total of about $8,000. And the budget I think that you have to do that work is roughly $20,000 to $25,000, depending upon your HVAC system cost. So somewhere between, well, it's a little bit more than third, maybe like 30 to 40% of the cost of your systems can get paid for with these incentives.
And Sean, just in terms of how to qualify for the equity community incentives, it is defined geographically. So that other map that has I think it's from San Jose Clean Energy, which is the disadvantaged communities as defined by the California EPA. Yeah, so if you live in any of those red areas in San Jose, you qualify for the equity community incentives. And then we also have a list of about 20 qualifying public assistance programs. So if you are enrolled in any of those programs, but don't live in one of these red areas, if you submit proof of enrollment, you can also qualify for the equity community incentives.
That's really nice that you accept other people's verifications of someone's income and such. Like, hey, if you qualified for Medicare, then you qualify for this. If you qualified for SNAP food assistance, then you also qualify. That's great.
Yeah, just trying to make it easy for folks, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that answered your question, because I think that's the incentives that we'd identified that were available to you. Although I guess, well, no, you asked for HVAC and domestic hot water, so these appliance ones don't count. I'm trying to think, is there any other little? No, once again, that's Bay Rens. Yep, I think that's it. That's what you get. Tax credits and a couple of rebates. PG&E's rebates and San Jose's rebates. Okay, here's another question. So you say, so equity incentive is only for income qualified? This is a good question for you, Sarah. When you're in that mapped area, do you automatically qualify because you're in the mapped area, or do you have to additionally income qualify?
It's automatic qualification. If you're in one of those red areas, you don't have to provide any sort of proof of income. And then on the Electric Home San Jose webpage, if you scroll to the bottom, you see the list of the qualifying public assistance programs. So yeah, it's either you live in one of those red areas or you are enrolled in one of these programs. Or if you're not currently enrolled, but you think you could be enrolled, you can also work on enrolling and then submit it to us.
Very nice. Appreciate the questions, y'all. This is for you, obviously. It's a service of your city. And so if there aren't any questions, I'm going to say thank you, translators, tonight. I really appreciate you. And thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Hannah. And I also want to thank Jesse, who helped me make so many of these slides on my team.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Sarah, for hopping on. Thank you so much to our interpreters tonight. Really appreciate you joining us and providing interpretation services. We will work on preparing a recording as soon as we can get it up on the website. I'll be on it, and I'll send a follow-up email even before the recording is prepared. It'll just have links to more information. It'll share some information on our upcoming webinars. We have one on avoiding panel upgrades, and then we have a webinar that'll be in Spanish and will cover home electrification topics similar to the Ask Sean show. It's called the Ask Maria show. Yes, we'll be posting recordings on the webpage, on our webpage. I can't guarantee that they'll be posted by the end of the week. It takes our team a little bit of time to get them up there, but I'll work on trying to push that forward as soon as possible. And I'll notify folks once they're up on the webpage. So I'll send a second email probably and let you know when they're on the webpage.
And can you email the attendees my slides?
Yes. Yeah, Sean, why don't you share the final version of the slides with me? I don't know if I received them yet, and I'll include it in the follow-up email so that you all have slides. I didn't
Great.
do that for the other ones, but I can do it for this one.
Thank you. Okay, so yeah, so there's one slide that was out of place. That fire mapping needed to be there. Okay, yeah, so I will send those slides over to you in just a moment here, Hannah. And I'll just say it again. Thanks, y'all. I'm going to leave here and go say, hello to my children and such. And appreciate all of you for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sean, again. Hope everyone has a good night.